The San Jose Sharks open the 2022-2023 NHL season with 2 games in Prague. J.D. Young of Locked On Sharks will join us to talk about those games and what we can expect from San Jose this season. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Gil Martin. So glad that you could be with us today. And right now, it is my pleasure to welcome to the show the host of Locked On Sharks, J.D. Young. And J.D., the season is underway for San Jose before 30 of the other 31 teams in this league. Not the start the Sharks hoped for, but some positives to be taken away. What was your biggest impression of these first 2 games?
The biggest impression for me is Timo Meier and Tomas Hurdle are the Sharks' best players. And we saw that, Tomas Hurdle, of course, scoring in his hometown Prague, getting the only goal for the Sharks on Friday. And then Timo Meier leading the team with 11 shot attempts shots on goal over the 2 games. So the Sharks are going to be much like they were last year, where it's all going to be focused on Timo Meier and Tomas Hurdle for them to kind of carry the load for the Sharks if they're going to have any success this season.
As far as the defense goes, San Jose did a much better job in one game at limiting the opposing shots than they did in the other. But your thoughts on the defense after 2 games?
It's going to be a brutal season. The Preds, they didn't have many shots on the Saturday game, but they pretty much, as soon as they got up 3-2, they parked the bus and just dared San Jose to try to be able to score on them, and they just weren't able to. So Erik Carlson, when healthy, we know what Erik Carlson is, and there was positive signs from Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who's had some really down seasons the past couple of years and is not living up to his contract. And Mario Ferraro, there was some positive signs with him, but some of the new additions like Matt Benning had a rough weekend. Scott Harrington, who was a PTO, and then they signed, and then was playing first-line defensive minutes with Erik Carlson, was a healthy scratch on Saturday's game. He had some rough moments as well. And again, there's just, after Erik Carlson, the talent really dips on the defensive line. And not when Erik Carlson gets hurt, because he can't stay healthy at this point, this blue line is going to be one of the worst in the leagues whenever that happens.
Where does that leave the goaltenders, who are probably going to be facing more shots than they would like over the course of this season?
Yeah, I mean, Reimer and Capo Kakinen, I thought they both looked pretty good, especially with some of the situations that they were put into. But it's probably going to be a lot of the same, where they're just getting outshot every night and having to kind of hold down the fort for a little while. So I don't want to say all doom and gloom here for the Sharks, but I mean, there was some not promising signs there based on some of the usage and just the way some of the guys played. So still very, very, very early into the season. And again, the whole going to Europe and then having to come back. So it's going to be a little bit different. Maybe once the guys get settled in and get into a regular routine, we'll see some improved play. But again, with the goaltenders, I thought Reimer and Capo, I thought they looked pretty good, especially with what they were kind of facing. The Preds are a very deep team. They can run 3 lines at you. They can score pretty easily. And new addition, Nino Niederreiter, really showed that the Preds might have gotten a steal with that contract with him. So,
yeah, he did certainly look very good. For Tomas Hurdle, you mentioned, him getting to score in his hometown of Prague. What did that mean to him? And what did this trip mean for this team as far as team bonding and sort of getting the season off on a pretty unique start?
Yeah, I mean, Tomas Hurdle talked about how important this was for him. And just, for his trip and journey, being, kind of a mid-first round pick. And, a lot of people were like, who's this Hurdle guy when the Sharks drafted him? And, coming out on his rookie season and scoring 4 goals in his 3 games and dealing with knee injuries and stuff. And I think this was a nice, and then last season signing that 8-year deal to make him a Shark for, probably the rest of his career for the most likely. I think this was kind of that nice little like feather in his cap of being able to go home, knowing I'm going to be a Shark for the rest of my career, and kind of prove, be able to go and play in front of his friends and family, and then scoring that goal too, and being one of the best, if not the best player on this team. I think it means so much for him. And, Hurdle is such a likable character, always full of energy, so charismatic. And, just seeing that smile on his face after he scored. And, there was the moment they had practice, open practice, and there was thousands of fans there. And then, him having his kid skating around on there, and you could just see the joy coming from his face of just how much he was enjoying this moment. So hopefully, it leads to another great season from Hurdle. But as the team, I think it was, especially where you have such a lot of new people coming in, General Mike Greer, he went out and signed a bunch of new people. I think there was 6 people making their Sharks debut this on Friday's game. So it's a good time for them. They say a lot of times like having a big road trip at the beginning of the season, it's good for that kind of team to kind of bond and get to know each other. And I don't think you can pick much longer of a road trip here going to Europe for a week. So, hopefully this is one of those things where these guys can get together and get to know each other, especially after such a short preseason, having to kind of shove an entire preseason into a week for the Sharks, while most other teams have, full 2 weeks of preseason. So hopefully this will kind of get that team chemistry going a little bit sooner. But we'll see, sometimes maybe another advent, or, it's just the travel and the wear and tear of the travel and stuff. So they have a week off. They don't play again until Friday. So hopefully they'll, be able to kind of get rested up, and some of the injured guys can get ready to play on Friday against the Canes when Brent Burns makes his debut.
That'll be interesting. That will be a nice little twist after Burns has been in San Jose for so long. What would you say is the key for this Sharks team to exceed expectations this year? I know expectations are not very high, but what would be a successful season for the Sharks, and what's the key to it for you?
I mean, a successful season to me is winning the draft lottery. But I mean, I think though, like on the ice, I want to see David Quinn's plan come together. I think there's a thing that he can do to really help his team. I think the power play, which has struggled the past couple of years, hasn't been creative. And we saw some of that creativity on Friday and Saturday's game. I think the power play is going to be improved. And if the penalty kill can be improved or stay somewhat consistent as they were last year, they were second in the league. I don't know if they can be second in the league in the game, but if they can still be like a top 10 penalty kill unit and then improve defense or improve power play, that can help make up for their what's probably going to be bad 5-on-5 numbers. So maybe you can steal some games that way. But I think for them, it's kind of figuring out what pieces are going to be here long term, and then hopefully starting to see some of these young players like Eklund and Bordeleau start to kind of come in and prove that they can be solutions in the long term. So for Sharks fans, I know right now Eklund and Bordeleau are both going to be starting the season in the AHL with the San Jose Barracuda. So I think it's, kind of see what you have these first kind of 20 games, and then, okay, what guys are gonna be coming that can really be solutions to some of their problems, especially their scoring problems.
Makes sense. JD, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Of course, you can find the podcast wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube, Locked On Sharks. I have Sharks prospect Scott Reedy planned for Tuesday, so you guys want to make sure you check that out. He is very handsome. And then you can find me on Twitter at my fry hole, where I make terrible jokes. So enjoy that.
Always a pleasure, Daisy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I'm not a great pill taker, and I didn't want to have to take a whole lot of different pills in order to get the vitamins and the nutrition that I needed. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting great. And it costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.